Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Manoj.
Morning.
I have seen that actually there is something like, I don't know whether you got the message, you guys got the message, but there was something like AI-based summary is on. I don't know how to turn it off. But
Oh, really? I didn't get
Yeah,
that.
I've been playing with that feature. It's enabled, but no one's actually looking at it, so it goes away when the session ends.
Interesting.
You know, that's my job. Push all the buttons, turn all the knobs.
Oh yeah, I know. I remember actually, Bijan, in our last meeting, you had mentioned that. Now that I remember, yeah, everything I see that it, somehow it raises bells and whistles in my mind. I don't know why. All right. And also, I don't think we have control over recording.
Yeah, because when you sign in, when you log in, it automatically starts. It says.
Right, but it doesn't allow us to stop it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. Not that I have to, but I'm just realizing there are no controls are different here.
Are they getting posted in the calendar by any chance? All the recorded sessions? I haven't looked at it.
The previous one we are getting uploaded. I haven't seen the latest one.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Let's check out. Sorry, somebody say something.
Some background noise.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like Manoj Pecan will be ready for today, right?
That's right, ready. I think the team which wanted to present or is not available because they are preparing for something else.
Okay.
So,
right.
so I'll think up with you offline when they are ready, and we can present.
Okay.
Yeah, send us a note whenever.
Sure.
Sounds good. Let's get started today. So first of all, let me just say congratulations and thank you to everybody. We had a solid get together last week, and CMS definitely was a topic of interest, and all the sessions were very well prepared. I will have to still see. A lot of people have been asking where the content will be available, whether the recording will be available, and I'm sure OCP Foundation is working on that. I don't know with that, Bijan, if you have an idea of when will that be available from the...
it's next week. Bijan posted that.
Okay, all right.
Oh, it's next week, Bijan? So because Kate said it's going to be a while, so that would be perfect if we can actually get those recorded sessions next week.
It'll start next week. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're working on the first batches now.
I see. Where will they be posted? Just a YouTube channel, or is there a specific?
Yes, and also through a link through our site. I'll post it.
Okay, awesome.
Alrighty. Give me one more second. I am going to. Reddy, do you have our presentation? So let me just kind of go through our last week, and then I was thinking we can take some time to walk through what we had presented as the next year's roadmap and agenda items that we want to work on, and then spend a few minutes. And then today we have presentation from Google and Meta for first specification contribution to our group, which is a hyperscale CXL tiered memory expander specification. I know the team wanted some more time before they come on board. Let me just see if people have started joining from that team.
So I see Chris. I don't know who else is.
Chris Peterson is here.
Yeah,
Brian
I see
from
Chris.
Google and Prakash.
I don't see Brian.
I should ask me a little bit more time. Okay, so
yeah, the two of them will be presenting.
Right,
I see.
and I think he had Chris. Thanks. Prakash had asked me to put it a little bit later so that Brian from Google can join. I think he had a clash at the beginning. So let's give some more time for that. Okay. So just to summarize, I think maybe I would like to see how all things went. We had a whole 8 to 5 session. I think all of them went really well. Very good discussions. Very good hallway discussions after that. And I'm getting a lot of feedback after the meeting about CMS, and people want to bring in content here and drive the discussions. So awesome job, everybody. Thank you very much for all the hard work people have been doing. And the Experience Center, Reddy and Bijan, this was a very good show up. It improved the confidence in the solutions because we are showing the actual things working as compared to what we had said last year that, hey, this is the promise of the future. Now, at least we are beginning to show reality with multiple companies working together in a single demo. And there were so many of them. So this was a very good idea and I think very well executed. So thank you, guys.
Good job to everybody. It was a lot of people talking about it, so it was very successful.
Yeah, I agree. I think I visited a few times and there was a lot of traffic, and I was worried about at least a couple of them not making it, not shipping the hardware and all that stuff. I was so happy to see that all the demos were actually right on. They managed to get all the demos up and running.
Right. Yes. Anybody from the Experience Center who wants to share any thoughts? What we could do better? What did go well? And Pekan, you were there.
Do we have Nara? I know Nara was.
Yeah. So one feedback, or at least one thing that everyone mentioned was they knew about the demo from the CMS day, at least like when you guys mentioned when you were talking, and they were trying to find the spot for CMS Experience Center. It was a little hard to find, is what everyone mentioned, whoever came by.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was the signage was, I had trouble finding it too because it was hard to find the signage.
Yeah, yes, I had the similar feedback. Probably next time we can have more banners or something where we can put standing wall banners or some or table banners at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good feedback. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that will be good. It will be good, Reddy, to pull a note together for all the Experience Center demos we had, and what is this something that you think we should do so that we can put out a note also?
Yeah, I think that will be good. As I'm going to ask that, it will be good to have a quick summary of Experience Center, what was presented, or that would be nice.
Yeah, I was thinking bunch of these, so for example, Micron presented the workloads. I'm just giving an example, right? And there was Cache Bench, from 2 different stations. I know Nara reviewed that content because he was also presenting. We should pull in, those folks who actually did not get a chance to present but had demos. Specifically on the workload side, I think, some of those things we need to push it into the GitHub. So it'll be good to bring them in into the weekly calls.
Okay, so there were demos who have not presented, you're saying, right?
That's right. Yeah. So because they have talked about few workloads that we didn't actually talk, extensively in the CMS project meetings, sub-project meetings. So I think it'll be good to kind of tune into those discussions and see how much we can pull in. Okay.
So I'll put that as so basically then we have a list of people. Let's reach out, and one of them, of course, perhaps is not. There's that Pekan's demo will cover one of them.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so we'll have more of those people who have presented there. By the way, just as a, I did go around, but I did not spend time on each individual demo. Were most of the demos live, or they were perhaps just demonstration of capability, like presentation?
They're pretty much live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we got that. And GitHub, you are making that, most of the people who have done the run the benchmark, perhaps you want to get data into GitHub. Is that what you're saying?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So going back to feedback, would you like feedback from the people that participated in the demo, just to give like a 1-paragraph summary of, here's what we like.
That would be good. If maybe we can put out everybody, if they can provide saying that what they were demonstrating, what they achieved, and then also about the experience, right? What they got good out of Experience Center, and what would they like to see better.
Okay, I can get that done from our side.
Yeah, I don't know if there could be a sheet. I don't know if that's a good idea, but with a column on experience, or what demo it was, and another one their feedback.
Okay.
If that is an easy format.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to consolidate all the demos. Just collect the input from the the demo owners on what's the the feedback from the audience. So we do, Milan, we do have a spreadsheet with all the demos. So it's in the CMS GitHub. I mean the CMS Google Drive link. We can include that, and then we can have a discussion in the follow-on CMS meeting.
Ready, then we'll work. You will drive that basically.
I will take care of that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think there were a few other things like feedback provided by the audience, or at least like questions we had, mostly around there were like some startups and some companies and individuals working towards a CXL ecosystem on the workload side, and like adding new features, new hardware stuff to the CXL around CXL capabilities. So they were basically checking how they can get access to the hardware as well, like some of the hardware. So at some point we should probably discuss on that as well.
Yeah, I was thinking this is something that we have done, and I have seen some announcements in the firmware, open system firmware. So OCP has these. I don't know, Bijan, I don't know what's called now. It used to be Innovation Labs, so I think we need to explore that option for broader ecosystem to try out the CXL.
Yeah, it's confusing, but they are also called experience centers.
Yeah. So is it something that is interesting to the rest of the team to pursue this through the OCP, the lab infrastructure efforts?
I would kind of go back and say that to me, it's like what Mahesh Wag was presenting at the beginning of this year, is that, have some sort of reference platform and then let people kick the tires on stuff, whether it be special features or workloads and whatnot. So I think what Mahesh kind of presented would be a kind of a good starting point for that discussion. Well, that's just my perspective.
I think, Reddy, I think you're bringing up, maybe I'm not, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, some time back we had this discussion about having I forgot what it was, but it was a innovation lab, I think you were saying, or maybe OCP community lab.
Yeah, it used to be innovation lab and community lab. I don't know the latest name, but yeah, essentially OCP has made progress in terms of opening up for a couple of projects. So I think if we can piggyback on that type of infrastructure, that will be good. I know, Manoj, we attempted last year, right? Through the
I know there. Okay, so maybe we can take an action item at least from our side, whether there's made. So Nara, perhaps this is something that we can take an action item to see whether we have made any perhaps any progress we have made. I know we had tried it last time. I think the point here is that if people are ready to offer hardware for others to play with, it's a challenging part, by the way. But now that most of the hardware is being available out there, perhaps it may be easier this year than last year, but it will still be challenging. But there are people who are saying that, hey, I have my hardware available for people. So even though it may not be under single lab, but for example, X company has their hardware, they are ready to put it available for people to play with in some fashion in their own lab. and people have access to it. That may be one way of exploring, because not all the hardware is still completely, how do you say, MP or productionized, the stuff that was demoed in the experience center. So we'll have to cross this. Maybe Nara, we can talk about offline also. I know DJ had thoughts at one point of time in this area. So we need to maybe circle back and Reddy, and then
yeah.
you with John and DJ, and perhaps we can contribute from thoughts from Meta side, because Nara and I had tried that in our lab also before.
Yeah, I think like there is some, I don't know, we need to check with our lab team and probably see.
Okay. So
yeah,
take that as the action item for us. So we have three primarily ones, right? One is a note to be published on Experience Center. Second is the GitHub, get the data published into it. And third one is the explore whether we have made any progress on OCP labs or whatever.
Let's call that as an experience center, because that's what Bijan is saying. That's the latest name.
Got it. Okay. Experience center. Okay.
So, Manoj,
I think one of the feedback publishing the numbers is a challenge. That if you have hardware and we want to publish, then it goes in NDA.
Vikrant, is that just me, or you're breaking up?
Oh, can you hear me now?
It's very much like 20% loss.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm in a coffee shop.
Oh, much better.
I was saying like one of the challenges I heard was one of the challenges I heard was when you want to publish numbers, that's when it becomes challenging from the lab. Like there has to be governance around what's allowed to go out.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. This is where I think we need to have maybe let's come back. I'll have to go also look at what Bijan has published for co-location facilities ecosystem. Perhaps maybe we can get Bijan to give us an overview next time, and then take it from there then.
So Manoj, on the same thoughts, I know that Intel Labs, which is kind of an arm of Intel for R&D and academic research, is building a cluster for CXL engagements with academic institutes and research institutes. Now, the challenge with that is it would be all Intel specific cluster. That means you need to sign an NDA and everything else with Intel. If there's a reason, if you think the OCP is trying to build some kind of a, not just a platform, but more of a cluster where everyone can log in and run some benchmarks, workloads on set of hardware which is provided in that cluster, then I can work with the Intel Labs team and figure out what hardware they are using. Probably the same, they can put it in the OCP cluster, or Intel can also donate some hardware.
Okay.
If possible.
Let's
if you can check that one, Pekan. That will be.
Let's form this small team to work on this one. Reddy, Bijan, Nara, Pekan.
Manoj, I would like to represent maybe university needs in this one.
Got it.
From the perspective of a couple of universities. Yeah.
I think, Brian, did you want to join that discussion? Whoever wants to just send us a note. But
I can participate.
Okay.
Even though I'm heading out to Micro this weekend, yeah, I can participate in that discussion.
Yeah, and Vikrant, I got. Okay. So let's just take that action item offline and then come back and report back. How about that? What is there, what is not there, what needs to be done. But I think what I quickly read up from the Bijan's note was something called OCP ready, and I think this will be a good one for us to explore with CMS ready for OCP, essentially OCP ready. So this will be good. Let's take it. Let's take it now. I know people are joining in now, so let's perhaps not go through the roadmap today and give enough time for the specification discussion. If you guys are okay with that, so I'll not start the new topic of which is the next roadmap. Let's focus on these things. Let me just quickly share what I have captured, and then we can move to the today's agenda. Pekan, you had a hand up. I'm not sure whether we covered.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that was covered.
Cool. All right. So from recap perspective, I think we will focus on innovation lab topic. I have a group identified here. We can start with it, and of course, more people can join us. They need to. Reddy, once you have all the data from the Experience Center, we can look for publishing a white note or news release or white paper, something like that.
Yeah, let's target for next week, maybe just a 5 to 10 minute update.
Okay.
I'll just send a note and then hopefully I can capture the feedback by then.
I'll convert the action items. Then the demos, we will schedule them in for the next agenda items for weekly call to come and present their work. And then GitHub, I think, as a part of this Experience Center also, you can get the GitHub starting getting populated. All right.
Yeah, one more thing, Manoj. So Intel team is in the process of open sourcing the universal memory framework. I think this one, Brian mentioned that to you and me. I did talk to Sergi. He may be on the call.
Yes, I'm here.
He needs some slot so that he can actually present and get feedback from the community.
Sure. Universal
memory framework, UMF.
So let me first to finally confirm it with my manager, and then I will get back an email so that we can present it here at the CMS call.
Yeah, send a note, Sergi, whenever you are done with the internal approvals and ready to present.
Yeah.
Okay, Sergi, right? Okay. Okay, so I'll put up then you will send the request for the time on the agenda. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah.
That's good. Cool. All right. Let me see. Prakash, are you online? I can see you.
I'm just waiting for Brian to join.
Okay. So I could have taken a little bit more time, looks like then. Or are you ready to start talking?
I would rather wait for Brian if possible. Okay. Because he said he can only join at 9:30.
Okay. All right. Then maybe let's just build the agenda. Anything else that we wanted to bring for the future meetings? Anything that we had? I know, Pankaj, you had been waiting for some more stuff to be brought up. Is there something that you see in near future that we need to plan for in next few
weeks? Let me just inject a comment I was waiting to share. I had a problem this time because I was invited to speak and participate in DCI, which happened at the same time as half of CMS Day. And it was very problematic from a schedule point of view because topics were overlapping, computational memory, and we had Christos from Stanford, who would have been, sort of, there was good people that would have been good to not overlap this time. So I think CMS and DCI coordination, Manoj, you need to handle maybe through Bijan and Youngsuk and Hynek's team, Hoshik Kim, how you guys will schedule in the future so that we are aligned, not competing for audience.
So this time we had made sure that we don't conflict with CXL forum. And we had coordinated all the agenda items also with CXL forum to avoid any conflict.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough, but okay.
One more thing, sorry for you to do. I think in terms of, the feedback from this time, I think Hynek's announcement of Niagara 2, there was other similar product announcements. Samsung Tech Day followed on Friday. They aligned their product lines around CXL and everything CXL memory modules. That was very interesting, just right on the heels of CMS presentations. So it was overall very interesting. But, I think behind the scenes, Manoj, people are saying that everybody is waiting for CXL3. And the time frame, like the Gartner analyst and just privately talking to people, some of the SoC vendors even, I heard a lot of 2026 is mentioned about CXL3. Okay. So I think from the point of view, it's kind of, a little bit of a contrast to the success we are having through Experience Center and such, that there really are kind of two conversations going on. Anyway, that was quick comments.
I see. Okay. So this actually
Pankaj, just for us not to get confused about dates, 2026 might be full production GA, but a lot of work needs to be done now. All developers, software, hardware, firmware need to be working now, and that's what we're doing. They can't wait until 26. That will be too late.
That is true.
Very good point. In fact, this is what I was going to suggest is that, when we had created a CMS roadmap almost 1.5 years back, I mean, we were kind of looking to the date what we did this time, which is first generation of CXL products being demonstrated, having interoperability, etc., and the use cases being demonstrated. So this is why we had planned for CashLib and all the benchmarks that we're talking about. So it was good to see we did it this year. I think what Pankaj, you are saying is that, hey, in 2026 or anything in future for 3.0, we need to start working on it right now, so that when that happens, we have all the CMS is providing all the required hardware software co-design requirements, guidelines, and specification as it needs to. So I think this fits in perfectly from a roadmap planning perspective. That the one which I postponed for the next discussion, we can pick it up and say, let's go out to 2025, 2026 roadmaps up to for how CMS feeds forward into the capability. I think that's perhaps what CMAC you are mentioning also, right? That it takes work to get to that, and I think CMS can provide that alignment across the industry and what capabilities and what benchmarks and what overall solution will look like.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I think that's the right interpretation. And then Manoj, in terms of these XPI work, I ended up presenting that at DCI this time because that's where it got scheduled. But we got a demo of arrow working with something running on the device. So I think around what databases and machine learning need, there is some alignment to be done with Apache work on UXL, and I'm looking forward to Intel's presentation on UMF. But Apache is kind of, they have a good Arrow project that has both data formats and compute operations that don't need code to be shipped. So for your computational memory work, which you have been trying to kick off, I think time is right because code is starting to work to have that kicked off, Manoj, and I've been waiting for you to kind of kick off that so we can meet.
So Pankaj, is that open source or is it still, do you have a link to that specific piece of code?
Apache Foundation is completely open source.
No, I know
Our
Apache
only
Foundation.
Got working 1 week ago, okay?
The demo part.
Yeah, so we only had a private demo for our customers already ready, but everything from Elephants will be open source. So we work on an open source operating system.
Okay, yeah. I see.
Okay, I mean, this is a pretty involved discussion too. So I mean, it gets into Velox stuff, and I'm not sure. That's part of it too.
If I may say, actually, let's keep the next week's slot for planning the roadmap, because I see that many of these work streams are becoming solid and dense enough that I think they need to run by separately and parallelly, so that we can keep on. Right now, what's happening is that actually we have a weekly call, but we have a single weekly call with the combined agenda. That is becoming difficult for us to make solid progress on all of these aspects or give enough airtime for it also. So what I tried last year, where we had 4 work streams created, and then we wanted to just every other week we wanted to get together as a joint project and do the common review. But every other week we wanted to have individual groups to work independently. We can discuss next week whether what work streams would be, and is this something that we are ready to do now, which we were not able to do last year. We can discuss it because I can see this work. Then the whole work, what will go under the GitHub and benchmark stuff that we are working on, that can continue to take its own life, in my opinion. There is
the manageability, right?
The manageability part. The manageability part is going to be there. The next generation, the roadmaps, the discussions will start on CXL 3.0, etc. So I think we have enough, but let's maybe have a focused discussion next week on this topic. All right. Does that make sense, Reddy?
Yeah.
Okay, a good Pankaj, thank you very much. I think let's bring in then the discussion that you had. Maybe we can have Intel also is going to talk UMF, and we need to have both of the discussion. And then Pankaj, I think you had been also waiting for us to say how we kick off the work stream. I think this is a good time for us to do it. Let's discuss and plan on it, and then hopefully we will start using the fancy methods of Zoom to create multiple rooms, etc. On that notes, I think let's move to our today's presentation. Is Brian presenting? Brian, yes. Hi, Brian. Hey, welcome, guys, to this CMS call. We have Prakash, Brian, Chris, and I forgot actually who all are there from the contributions, but they have a proposal contributing specification. This is a CLA signed by Google and Meta. So this is the first meeting for project review. This is, and then essentially it will pass through the multiple processes, go to the server, to the steering committee, and then becomes a contribution to CMS. So with that, Brian, over to you.
I think Prakash is presenting, but
okay,
I'm
presenting.
here if you need anything.
All right.
You can talk, Brian.
Oh, you know,
Brian, we love you talking, right? I mean,
oh, geez, the pressure. All right.
That's called being voluntold.
That's right.
All right. Okay, Amber is here too. Okay, good. I didn't announce all, so because I think the attendees are 62. But please, if you guys wanted to introduce who all are contributing, feel free. But welcome to the group.
Yeah, it's really, you know, a gaggle of folks from both the Meta and the Google side. So you know, we've got Prakash and Chris here from Meta. I don't know, Manoj has been involved, and from the Google side, it is myself and Jerome. I don't know if we have Jerome this morning, but certainly Amber and Amit have helped us steer the right path on this. Jumping in, quad channel CXL memory expander. If you could go on to the next slide, Prakash. A lot of what we're observing in the CXL space is, you know, there's all this potential for us to come in and add a new tier to the memory hierarchy for servers, but and we're seeing devices that enable us to do this, but the economics aren't necessarily lined up, right? That once you get through the cost of the controller and the board and the power and so on, that you and then you still have to populate the DRAM that's not cheap, right? And you get to a place where you say, gosh, I really don't want another tier of memory that is more expensive than my main tier of memory, right? So a whole lot of the time when internal customers come to us and ask, you know, can I be using CXL? The answer is, well, just populate bigger DIMMs, right? So what we're really trying to do here is to build a CXL device that, you know, we can deploy everywhere in the data center, right? That you know, really hits the hyperscaler needs, right? And increases platform capacity, either because we need more capacity, or sometimes in an incremental fashion because we are limited to power of 2 memory sizes, and this lets us fill a niche, right? And we're really hoping to improve the cost of memory versus commodity DIMMs, because that is a pain point for everybody in the industry today.
Yeah. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll move to the next slide.
It sounds like aligned with what CMS Group has been looking at, so that makes sense.
So some of the enablers that we're pursuing along these lines are support for DDR4, right? DDR5 will become more economical eventually, but you know, we know, for instance, that we can achieve chip kill with less overhead on DDR4, for instance. And there are lots of interesting sources for DDR4 media in the industry. A lot of the CXL first generation ASICs are focused on lower channel counts, and what we're trying to do is amortize the costs, both in terms of the ASIC as well as the board, and the power over more capacity, right? So one way we get there is with 4 channels, and another way we get there is with 3 DIMMs per channel, right? So you're talking 12 DIMMs per ASIC. That is a lot of amortization, right? It goes a long way towards making those costs digestible. The other thing that we're doing here that is pretty different is inline memory compression, right? Essentially, we are putting a compression and decompression engine on the device and making that essentially transparent from the CXL perspective, right? So that involves having compressed block management on the device, right? Because you're no longer in a space where every address necessarily has capacity behind it, right? Because it is compression, and we don't know at runtime what the compressibility of all of our data set is, right? But the device is fundamentally handling that layer of indirection that is necessary between the address that's requested by the host and where the data actually resides in a compressed form in memory, right? Then just baseline motherhood and apple pie, right? There's things that we need in the data center in terms of reliability, performance, telemetry management, open source software for all of that management work is just table stakes for us, right?
Hey, Brian, there are a couple of hands. I just wanted to see if you want to take now or you want to wait.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Pecan, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, Brian. Thanks for the details, but I have a question on the DDR4 use right now. So DDR4 will soon hit something what is called a legacy price point premium, the same way the DDR3, because most of the memory companies will move their factories or upgrade their factories for DDR5, and DDR4 will be less produced in the market, and so someone has to pay a premium for that. Now, the question is, when you say the support for DDR4, do you mean the support for DDR4 only as DIMMs, which are already available with you? Because if you are asking someone to build a E3.S with DDR4, then they have to buy DDR4 from the market, and that will become costly.
So our focus is really DIMMs, right?
Okay.
That is a very fungible commodity between platforms and within the industry and lots of open markets. I understand there's been a lot of focus in the industry on those smaller form factors, but those smaller form factors don't allow for that amortization that we've really been focusing on, and the small form factors don't really achieve what we're trying to achieve, right? It's not like we're really trying to put 12 terabytes of DRAM on a platform, right? It is much more about supplementing the capacity or finding a lower cost alternative for the capacity where we can land a tier of memory that is known cold, right? And you guys, I suspect, have seen papers from both Meta and Google over the course of the past year on what we see that second tier looking like and how we manage it, right? So that you can imagine all those things applying to this.
So is it just in different words? Is it a reuse of old inventory into the CXL pool?
That's certainly possible. I don't think I'm really in a place to comment on business decisions that Google's making, right? That doesn't seem appropriate.
Yeah, I think we can just say that we have enough inventory at the right cost point to make this economical, or at least provide us a choice to make it economical.
But I think this is perhaps more the discussion is on the capability for the proposal that we have here in DDR4, and I think that perhaps should let the business decision be business decisions.
I think a couple of other observations, though. This is this looks like a capacity play. I'm not entirely convinced about. I can see some power savings, but I don't think the power story necessarily holds. It looks like a capacity play and a memory reuse play, which are good reasons.
There are some things that sort of overlap, right? If you're running at 3 DIMMs per channel, then you have to run slower for signal integrity. That improves power, though maybe not energy, and also makes it easier to tolerate older generation DIMMs. So there are some better together sort of aspects there.
Absolutely.
It matches the sustainability tenet of OCP.
In terms of the reuse, the embodied carbon, absolutely, Samak. Yeah.
Right. I had a quick question around compression. You said it's transparent, but did you mean to imply that things like window size and other compression parameters or the dictionaries that you want to use, are they in some sense programmable from software? And will you talk about that later?
That's really so we're not talking about it in these slides. The spec goes into a little bit more detail, but not a whole lot. But I think within this space, there's a lot of opportunity to do different things in the compression space. And there are some things that we're pursuing in a first generation that I suspect folks can do better in a future generation.
So is the intent to invite the community to participate, or the intent for the community to use what's provided in the first generation?
What I would love from my perspective, and I don't want to speak for everyone else here, is I would love for there to be vendors competing with each other to provide the best solution, so that I can take solutions from 3 different vendors and try out the trade-offs they're making in terms of say compression algorithms, and use the one that's best for either for my whole data center or for specific customers within my data center, snapping to different solutions.
Yeah, but I think to the point of evolution, I think we're submitting a version 1, and depending on other folks' interest, this can be converted to a version 2 later with additional features or whatever requirements other folks bring in.
Plus one to what Prakash is saying, right? That this is a starting point, right? But we imagine that this area is going to evolve in the community, providing feedback for how we would get to a 2.0 down the line, right? And how to make this most useful for the industry is definitely desired.
I think if I may just, by the way, just chiming in, we are 9:43. We have less than 20 minutes. I want to make sure that Brian and Prakash and Amber and everybody gets time to cover it. So although I opened it up, I just want to just make people aware that we want to cover as much as possible as today. But Brian, I'll let you and you guys decide however you want to.
I think we just have one more slide.
Okay.
So let's get to it. I'll say the words real fast. You can read them, and then we can mostly focus on questions, right?
And let's make sure we get back to Vikrant and Durgesh, since they are patiently with their hands up.
Good. I didn't know how many slides you have, so I want to make sure that we have time.
Actually, this is it, and everybody can read this while we're answering questions. I don't have a lot to add to this beyond what you're looking at. So
yeah, this is basically just defining the high-level feature set of the device, and the spec obviously goes into a lot more detail. But yeah, let the questions.
So let me just that. So plan is basically we'll upload these slides so that people can have a review. Are you guys planning to submit also any other documentation along with that for them to have more actually in the contribution, or this is something that you don't right now?
Is there a draft spec at all, or is it just that's all it is? These 2 slides.
We have a draft spec ready, but yesterday we were told to change the format of it, so we have been busy trying to restructure it into the right format.
Brian and Prakash, are you contributing the controller spec or the module definition as well?
Just the controller spec.
Yeah, can I take Manoj for a few seconds?
Let me just finish.
And can we go in the order of people that have raised their hands, just so that we're trying to.
Let's get through the 3, but let's make sure that I wanted to let everybody know that actually we'll cover through this presentation today. At some point, perhaps next week, we'll have a specification whenever this team is ready. we will have it available for CMS, because it will go. This is a spec from Google and Meta that is contributed to CMS. It will go through the normal process of approval, but we have an opportunity to come back, as Amber said, opportunity to come back and really contribute from CMS perspective and evolve this. As like Brian said, we won't get more participation in this discussion. So let me stop there. We'll have more on this topic next week again. Durgesh, you have been patient. Let me hand it to you.
Yeah, thanks, Manoj. Hey, Brian and Prakash. Yeah, so just to reiterate, this spec is for the ASIC which you want behind the CXL.
Correct.
That's right. We didn't.
We do have some power and board level requirements as well in the spec, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to drive the controller requirements, basically.
So the reason for my question was all the things related to manageability and others. How do we feed it back to the SoC so that the kernel or OS can read it? Because now it's a separate device. So, and I think you have written it, but manageability and RAS would be a big problem.
So the firmware and manageability aspects are also covered in the spec. Now, it's not the controller firmware basically supports most of the manageability features, right? So
it will update the CXL registers, or it will have to generate an interrupt and go into the SoC. That is what I want.
So Durgesh, the CXL consortium has defined an entire management interface and infrastructure for all of that, and this takes full advantage of that. It just builds
so it's just building on it, Chris. That's
correct.
What I want to know.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not new. It will just feed into that, which makes sense because SoC is not even aware of this particular ASIC sitting behind the CXL.
Yeah, but we will have some vendor-specific commands that will augment the spec-defined commands as well, and hopefully we can standardize on those in the CXL's consortium as if they're considered to be useful.
Okay, and compression, you're doing it for the storage space or for the bandwidth?
It's for capacity.
So for capacity, okay.
But I mean, you can always add things that can maybe cache and make things faster, but that's not the primary intent. Unless Brian, if you disagree, please chime in.
No, I agree. I mean, it you know, depending upon your workload and your balance between memory and CXL, maybe it could provide bandwidth. But that's a little bit of a tenuous space, right? You need you know, really good locality for your data, and you need to be in a situation where you had enough CXL bandwidth that you could really take advantage of it. But our primary intent is capacity, right? In fact, capacity per dollar, right? You know, this is really focused at how do we to make that next tier economical.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm good with that because GPUs have different ways, so that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Okay, then Vikrant.
Yeah, thanks. So I think my question also on the compression decompression, which is very interesting, especially in the context of pooled memory, as we think about sharing it between multiple hosts. I was a little unsure about how that will play into the latency, especially if you also have hotness tracking and you start to decompress, how the hotness tracking along with compression decompression behind the device might interplay with each other. So not sure if you looked at hotness tracking.
So yes, we have our you know, the hotness tracking as we sort of like envisioned it in a very limited fashion, and you'll see some talk about telemetry in the spec. I think the spec is probably going to be outdated by the things that we're seeing in the CXL 3.1 ECN that's showing up for hotness tracking, right? I think that's probably what everybody wants to snap to, is that standardized way of doing it. In terms of latency, I've been really impressed with the latencies I've seen possible for an inline memory compression. You know, particularly when you say I've got some latency going out over CXL to get here to begin with. The additional latency I'm seeing are things that we consider digestible. at least for pages that we've identified as legitimately cold, right? And there are knobs that can be turned in terms of making trade-offs between bandwidth overhead of compression, latency of compression versus the compression ratio, right? So I think it's going to be a really interesting space to explore in terms of how you would optimize that for different workloads.
Cool. Thank you, Anant.
Yeah, a couple of questions basically. One is, what the package dimensions are you guys looking at it? I don't think that it's a finalized, but what's general?
Yeah, I think it's covered in the spec. So the minimum dimension, there's some constraint there. It's like 25 or 26 millimeters.
Yeah.
But the longer, you can have a pretty different aspect ratio from like common packages, so that you can accommodate 4 channels of DDR. So the other width is kind of left unconstrained.
Okay, so one good thing is basically that you guys are looking at the standard RDIMM. I think there has been a lot of people talking about E3 dot with single chips and all things. So that's good. That is a great endorsement. As at SNIA, we are defining fundamentally 8-channel form factor, 8 to 12 channels, standard DIMM form factor. Only thing we are differing here right now seems to be that we want to do support by 16 as well as by 32, 2 by 16 compliant. Does the extra capability of adding another lens, does it buy you from more channel, or from performance perspective, does it help you in that direction, or is it economical scale is the only driving factor?
I think we're at a balance point with DDR4 that says by 16 probably get you there, unless you have fantastic locality on the SRAM cache for decompressed pages. That said, in a DDR5 context, I could see 2 by 16 being valuable, right? There's lots of fun stuff we could do beyond this Gen 1, right? Gen 1 stake in the ground, where we go from there should be fun to see.
Yeah, no.
Anant, if I caught it correctly, I think you're talking about the module form factor wanting to have 2 by 16s. This one is a controller, so you could choose to have 2 controllers on the module.
Correct. No, I understand. I think because the question fundamentally is that this DDR4 based calculations are probably good for another 1 or 2 years, and by the time this whole thing comes from controller to the module to the implementation, I think the bandwidth perspective should be really optimized for DDR4 rather than DDR4, correct? One is capacity, but even in the case of DDR5, it will become a capacity solution, not necessarily a performance solution.
Yeah, I think one thing we upgraded in the spec was to require 64 giga transfers per second compliant SerDes. So that should help.
That's a Gen 6. That's a Gen 6 compliant, correct? So that's where you are looking at.
So that should provide some more balance on the DDR5.
Let me just also, there were a couple of questions on the chat. There was a question whether is this going to target single host domain, kind of single host domain, or is it multi-host domain? And then there was another question, I think, which was addressed. Is the capacity going to be for capacity is defining as compressed or uncompressed when we define the data sets?
I think the best balance is to make sure the device can support 2 different hosts from a single device, because we are inherently trying to make this second tier economical, and the last thing you want to do is have to buy 2 ASICs and 2 cards to plug into 2 different sockets just because, right? Like what you'd like to do is really maximize the use of that single resource and then spread it out over 2 hosts if you can, right? Though there will be some usages that want 1 or 2 ASICs per host, perhaps. In terms of the capacity, right? We see it as specifying a maximum possible compression ratio that we should expect across the whole device, right? Which is to say, if you've populated a terabyte of DRAM, then we might say across all of the payload that we're storing there, the most we will ever support is a 4-to-1 compression ratio, and therefore this is a 4 terabyte device. And then software is going to have some sort of balloon, or we tend to use the word cushion because the word balloon is so used in so many other places, right? We have a cushion in there that inflates and deflates to make sure that we're not oversubscribing the device.
I think the question was there, when we talk about capacity of the device, in that case, it will be advertising compressed capacity or uncompressed capacity.
I don't think you could ever advertise compressed capacity, because you've got to know the workload and the compression ratio. So I would push back against anyone who tries to say something other than the actual raw physical capacity of the media.
Okay, thanks. Okay, then going back to the queue, Anand, I think we covered yours. Brian?
Yeah, we just keep on hearing about the spec, and and I know it's promise, but is there a place you're going to post this to? Like, is it going to be a Google blog entry, a Meta blog entry, to CXL, to CMS, or CP? Where are you actually going to post this spec to and let people know that it's available?
This will be a spec through OCP, so it will be posted in OCP community. It will go through. So this is the first step to
maybe Amber can speak to the mechanisms.
Sure. I can speak to the mechanism. So by OCP process, right, we need to present to the appropriate project or subproject, in this case with CMS, the overview of what our contribution is going to be. And so now we're taking the spec into the steering committee to propose it as a contribution to OCP. And then once it were accepted by the steering committee, it would be posted on the OCP contributions page for anybody to take a look at, and we'd be happy for feedback. We definitely understand the desire by everybody here that to not necessarily wait for 3 weeks or whatnot for it to be posted out in the wild post the steering committee review. So if we'll chat and figure out whether we can provide an early draft to the team to provide some feedback.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, Pekan. Anand, I think your hand is still left from the previous, I guess.
Yes, so I have 2 questions. One on the first 2 part of the spec, which is packet dimension, power, and thermal envelope. I think JEDEC is already working on that. And if I do not know if you're part of the JEDEC subcommittees, but there is a fair amount of technical work which has already gone into optimizing the package dimensions, power, thermal profile, and JEDEC has released a spec on its own. So the question is, are we duplicating that effort, or?
This is a single channel controller.
Single channel pick, and there is a difference between JEDEC and this one. I think I like this. This is much better, more interesting.
So we can probably take this the form factor to JEDEC once there is agreement on whether a 4-channel controller should be.
It's a multi-channel one is what is important out here.
And I will just add, so we're intimately familiar with that spec, right? We also helped initiate that effort within JEDEC. And the specification here is expected to reference that spec as well, right? The point here is this is just a newer version that we have not yet tackled within JEDEC.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, at some point it would be good to kind of merge the 2 or figure out.
We will noted, and we are working on that.
Okay, thank you. The second part of this is, since you are looking at the capacity play, have you considered looking at memory semantic SSTs, assuming that you have a matured hot page, cold page kind of tiering mechanism? In that case, your NVMe based, CXL based SST architecture or memory semantic SST architecture would give you much better cost point reduction than
I'm going to interrupt you for time. We're looking at it. I'm pretty nervous about the tail latencies. The bandwidths are problematic, but maybe workable. But fundamentally, what you consider cold memory depends on the performance properties of the device. So I don't necessarily see them as being mutually exclusive. You could imagine putting very cold pages on an SSD device and warmish pages on a more performant device.
Yeah, I think, Pekan, the question to you is, will the CPU be able to tolerate microsecond latencies on load store requests?
So, okay, so I think
but irrespective though, I mean, that can be a next rev. It doesn't have to be everything in one rev, right?
Yeah,
so
yes.
if there is enough need for it, because that's going to happen organically. So
yes, Reddy. So my question was, in the spec, can we define something like, while we are doing the evaluation for the coldest pages, this which can be stored in a memory semantic SSD, this is the spec, or these are the requirements. For warm pages, which is DRAM based CXL over here, these are the requirements, and hot pages are anyways in the main memory.
That's a controller differentiation. Right? That's a very much different controller, correct? It's not
if I may intercept,
exactly.
Because I
sure.
want to make sure that we can allow. And this is a good discussion, by the way. Just to make again clear, this is a contribution that has been brought forward. I'm sure we'll have a lot more discussion for Rev 2.0, etc. But wanted to make sure that it is covered. I know Samir had one question. Why don't we take that question, if you guys are okay, Prakash, to hang on for another few minutes. And then once the document is published, perhaps you guys will be able to come back and give more insights into this, right?
Yeah, I think I have just one comment, and based on my experience when we introduce hotness tracking in OCP, and when we give these requirements to vendors, I think it would be nice if you can also add some use case, because they always have questions about use case when we put some requirements. So that would be nice if you can add a section use case for this.
So Samir, let me reach out to you outside and figure out like what kind of requirements would make sense there. It may be a bit late to accommodate that in we are trying to get this through quickly. So
perhaps it may be easier to say that, Samir, see if it works with you. We have right now other documentation going on from use space, your benchmarks, etc. Once this spec is published, we can reference to that spec saying that these are the details, and then connect it with other documents for use case, benchmarks, etc. Like what we're talking. Would that make sense, Samir? Because I don't want to delay the spec. I think that's what Prakash is talking about.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
No, I think for more generic things, it's fine, but specifically around compression, there are a lot of questions I see coming from the community. So if you can answer some of those with some use case discussion, that will be useful.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can target that as a separate, document itself, maybe in the workload section. Or use case section plus workloads, both.
We're at 10:03.
Yeah, I have to jump
to. Would you be able to send us out when you are ready for sharing the document? Because I'm sure looks like there is a strong interest from the group. And then have a follow-up on that. Once you have a spec, perhaps let people have some time to go through it and then come back and but the process as far as is concerned, it will move forward. But at least from the getting the interest and getting future contributions perspective, I think it's an excellent contribution. Thank you for bringing it here, first of all.
Yeah, this is excellent.
We're targeting Monday for the draft spec. Hopefully.
So once you let us know, then we'll put it out. Guys, I'll send out a note again on CMS. And in fact, Prakash, if you are on the groups.io, send out directly. Either way is fine. And then we can revisit it if you guys are ready for next week or week after next.
Okay.
You can let us know. All right.
Thank you.
Guys, sorry to cut short. A lot of good discussion, but I just want to make sure that everybody was having strong cutoff today at 10 o'clock. So I wanted to drop it off earlier. But thank you, everybody, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.